Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Endless Spiral podcast. You're all very welcome. I am, as always, your host, Keith Russell. On this episode, I've got two guests with me today. Well, I've got one at the moment. I should have another guest with me soon. We have Tony Soutter, who is, of course, Ellie's father, and Ellie sadly lost her life when she was 18, and the Ellie Soutter Foundation was born, and they support promising ski and snowboard athletes both financially and mentally, and they do some great work, and we'll have a chat with Tony about that. We also have nearly with us Leonie Gerken Schofield, who you remember was on the podcast with us before, and Leonie's a great supporter of the work that the Ellie Soutter Foundation does, so we'll have a chat with her about that as well. And also, before I bring Tony in, we had a blog from a young inspiring man called Xavier, and you might have realized, or you might have seen, I posted his blog on the website yesterday, and Tony's going to fill us in a bit more detail on Xavier's story because it's absolutely brilliant. It really, really is. So, Tony, that's my speech out of the way. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Keith. Yeah, very good indeed.
Brilliant.
Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. I've been planning to get you on for a long time because the foundation you have is brilliant, and I kind of was made aware of it first by Leonie. So like I said, I kind of wanted to get you on for a while. So thank God you're on it now, and thanks very much. Before we kind of chat about your foundation and stuff like that, as I mentioned in the intro there, we'll have a chat about Xavier's story because you obviously know more about this than I do. So do you want to fill people in just in case they haven't seen the blog that went up yesterday?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, Xavier came to us as a grant funding application. I think his parents sent in an application for his skiing because he's doing really, really well. And he's pretty much on the GB Olympic pathway, if you like. And he's been struggling to fund his skiing. I asked his mother to tot up what it costs, and she got very worried. She'd never done that before. But a season for Xavier, who's 10 years old, was £27,500. Wow. And that's why, obviously, they sent in a grant application. Unfortunately, due to COVID and the money we've lost in the fundraisers that we haven't been able to do, the foundation isn't in a position to take on another athlete at the moment, which is a real shame. So, but I did reply to his application and said to his mother, if he knows of anybody, we have Pacific grant funding programs in place where we will go and find local companies and approach them on athletes' behalf to support them, directly. Not just the foundation, but they specifically give money to a particular athlete, and then we'll manage that for them and manage all of the PR that goes with it. So, on reply, Xavier's mum just turned around and said, "Look, that's really lovely of you. I'll get together a list. But in the meantime, Xavier would really like to do something for the foundation, and he wants to run 100K." In a period of a month, which was quite astounding. And this was, he still hadn't been allowed back on skis. He had a month to go before he was allowed back on skis. And it was part of his recuperation because he had two awful accidents. A snowboarder went into him in one while he was training out in Europe. And then there was another accident. He broke his tibia and fibula, I believe. So, so he was really struggling. I didn't know it at the time, but after seeing him run and then him doing some blogs about his running and what he was doing for the foundation, quite inspirational, really. He started writing to us about how this had made him feel so much better doing exactly that. Not just the health side of it, the benefits of running, 5, 10, 15K a day with lots of different people. But the fact that he was doing it, he was helping himself mentally, and that's exactly what he says in his blog that he sent to you guys. So, a real inspiration, and the foundation would absolutely love to help him. If we can get into a situation soon where we can get some grant funding, then we'd love to help him because he's one of those young lads that sort of stands out and has a real brilliant attitude. So good luck to him.
I mean, like the blog itself, I mean, even doing the blog is difficult, but the two accidents he had, the rehabilitation, the running, even and he was suffering from, I think he was suffering from anxiety a lot, wasn't he, from his accidents? And and I mean, able to go off and do a bit of running, and then that kind of ended up with him running 100
K. I mean, involving even his psychotherapist, his physiotherapist, his doctor, his surgeon, people that he trained with, they all went along and shared days with him and ran with him. So it's a very inspirational thing. But it just at such a young age, it just goes to show the problems young athletes are up against. There's a massive problem. If you hurt yourself, if you don't feel quite right, you've got to go and see your coach. You've got to turn up for training. You don't want to tell people you're not feeling great. Because you don't want to be struck off the list for the next comp or and on top of that, you've got the pressure of, if they get sponsorship, young people are very difficult to sponsor, but if they do get sponsorship, then they have to worry of letting down their sponsors if they're not, and they certainly don't want to tell their sponsors they're not feeling great mentally, or they're under any pressure mentally or even physically. Both of them are as bad as one another, because they don't want their sponsors to drop them, thinking, oh, well, he's not strong enough. So you keep quiet about it. And that is very, very dangerous. And the other problem, and Leonie will probably back me up on this, is that, Ellie had private coaches towards the end. She did some stints with GB. Then she had a private coach as an English one. Then she had a private coach as a French one. She had a massive accident on a training run on a snowboard, so much so she snapped her coach's snowboard in half, which is about a £2,500 snowboard. It was a racing snowboard. So that's massive impact for a 15-year-old or 16-year-old to have on a snowboard, to snap it in half, a young girl as well. Nothing of her. Suffered a concussion, went to hospital, phoned me up, told me she's fine, let me get out of here. Went back and raced the next day. Now the English team didn't want her to race, banned her from racing, told her she couldn't race. But the French coach wanted her to race because she knew she was going to win the race. If she was, didn't win the race, probably fell again, I think, something like that. But it just shows the pressure that even the coaches want to achieve, because if their only way of getting up the ladder is having achievers, on their books. So, there's also that danger there where people will say, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't, but let's give it a go. So there's a huge amount of pressure on the young athletes. It comes from various points. Ellie was acutely aware that the bank of dad was funding her snowboarding, and I'd made a decision, moved out here when she was 9. By the time she was 12, she was snowboarding for Team GB. It went on and on. It grew into 30,000 euros a year. And I sort of made a decision. I was very happy to fund her and to do that and to try and get her funding. Because I wanted to see her do well. She was doing something. She was it was a natural talent. She was very good at it and she loved it. And I didn't see anything wrong with it. If it didn't interfere with her education, in case it all went wrong, then it was fine by me. But she was very astute. She did her own education. She ended up homeschooling because that was the only way we could work it around the sport. And she did that without me pressurizing her or even asking her. She wanted to be good at that. But the pressure, she knew that I'd given up so much for her to do it. Athletes all know this. Leonie will back me up 100% here. Her poor parents are putting 3 children through the same thing. And I know her parents and I've spoke to them about it, and it is so difficult. So difficult. And it's so frustrating as well. Unfortunately, there isn't the funding in GB, so it has to be private funders. It has to be. There isn't masses of funding for snow sports or winter sports in the UK. So that's why the foundation was set up. So we now we'll grab athletes that without the funding wouldn't be able to do what they can do. So we get people come to us with a talent. They're on maybe an Olympic pathway already, or they're growing towards one. And if we can see that there's a talent there, then we'll we'll means test them and the family and make sure that we're not giving someone money when they don't need it. If they can do it without our help, great. But if they wouldn't be able to achieve their goals and dreams without funding, then we will try and fund them. But on top of that, we make sure that they've got a complete, social well-being, a well-being package, a personal well-being package around them. They don't all use it, and so they've got access to therapists, they've got access to gyms, they've got access to physiotherapists, sports therapists, massages. So the whole caboodle. We will try as much as we can to get them all of that, wherever they're training, whatever they're, whether they're in the UK, whether they're in France, whether they're actually, in Switzerland or something training, we will try and provide that for them where they are. So that's, amazing. So that's what the foundation is sort of doing and is set up about. But it is, I mean, sport is a fantastic thing. And it is very, very good. If your body is healthy, it promotes your mind to be healthy. And there's no two ways about that. That is, that is proven. Yeah. The thing that is a problem is that when you become an elite athlete, the pressure gets greater. To become an elite athlete, you have to have a certain, get up and I want this. And it's very difficult if you don't get it. So you're pressurizing yourself anyway on achievements or non-achievements. Once you start achieving, you've then got pressure to maintain that achievement to that level. It's very difficult if you drop back. Leonie knows more than anybody else sitting here that accidents and injuries are a big part of that, because you can be just where you think, right, I am ready. I'm 2 days away from being ready to go to the Olympics and challenging the world. And then bang, it all goes completely wrong. You've then got 4 or 5 months, maybe more, in recuperation, expenses of surgery, this, that, and the other, worrying about whether you're doing the right thing, whether you should be trying to get back to where you were before, or whether you should just say, hang on a minute, let's give this up. Yeah. I know I know that is 100% true with Ellie. Ellie had so many concussions, several large concussions. And this is something the Ellie Soutter Foundation really wants to lobby all of the sports governing bodies about, because it's so simple to detect and so simple to, but Ellie had several large concussions. And I, as a parent, I'm sitting there thinking, what if? I always do every day, that's part of me. But, at the time I was advised that her brain was young enough, she'll get over that, and took her to doctors, took her to neurosurgeons. They checked her out, said, yep, she's fine. The very last time she had a massive accident was at the Natural Games in Avoria. She hit the snow so hard that the chief medical officer for the resort, when I went up there 2 days later to go and pick her stuff up, asked how she was. And I said, oh, she's coming home today. He said, that can't be possible. I thought they'd put her in an induced coma. We literally lost her twice on the mountain, and I just thought to myself, oh my good God, but it was just a massive concussion. So she had to have 6 months off snow, no work. You're not allowed to look at a phone. Try telling a 16-year-old that, 17-year-old that, you're not allowed to look at a phone. You can't watch TV. You should sit in a darkish room with some very light music on. But that doesn't happen, does it? So recovery gets worse. she was petrified of concussion. Every time it happened, it got worse. It didn't need to be the biggest bang in the world. The more you have a concussion, the more concussions you have, the more susceptible you are to them, and the longer recovery takes. And I think now looking back on it, she was invited to the World Champs. We went to Grenoble, saw the neurosurgeon. They did some scans, did CT scans, etc. on her brain. And they came back and he tested her a few things and said, no, I think she's fine. Yeah, she can go back to snowboarding. What I didn't know is I should have gone to every single one of those doctors armed with, this was the last time she had a concussion. The recuperation took that long. This was that time, that was that. If I'd have gone with a list of 6 previous concussions, I don't think that doctor would have let her walk out there with a snowboard on her foot, that's for sure. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. I was naive to that as well. And that's something that I really, really want to get across to sports bodies and governing bodies. It is so simple to do baseline tests for concussion. You do it when an athlete is in their prime, when they're doing really well. You do a short baseline test. You can download them on a computer, on an iPad, and there's just some simple things, even just getting them to run, touch a wall, catch a ball, this, that, and the other. Just a baseline test, mark them out of 100. And then when they've had a concussion, if they don't get back to, if they can't get to 10% of that original baseline test number, they're not ready to go back to sport. It's just no until they're ready, because it's the only way you can really tell. So
yeah, Leonie, you're doing an awful lot of nodding there. Actually, by the way, we have Leonie with us now. She's been sitting there nice and quiet, and she's nodding away. How are you, Leonie?
Yeah, sorry, I had a bit of struggle signing in. My computer just I had to download stuff, and it took a few minutes. So sorry about that.
You're fine.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too, Tony.
So, Leonie, you've been listening patiently to Tony talking there. Have you anything you want to add to? Because obviously, you speaking about kind of how tough it is for when you're out, injured and rehabilitation, and and the concussion and all that type of stuff. You can obviously agree with pretty much all of that. I mean, I assume.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree with everything Tony said. When I've been through pretty much, as you know, so many injuries. And when I first did my knee, it was I had a chance to go to the Olympics in 2014. I did my knee a month before. And that was hard. And then it broke again 7 months later. And for a 15-year-old, it's it's just so tough. All you want to do is get on your skis and ski, because that's where you're happy.
Yeah.
And then for 2018, I had a big chance again to go, and then my shoulder, I had to have shoulder surgery, and that's your Olympics are gone. And it's just that's when you start doubting. You're like, well, can I do this? Do I keep going, or what do I do? And then you're like, oh well, I love this sport, I just want to continue. But at the same time, you've got all these injuries you have to kind of get over, and it's just really hard. Everyone can see that you're injured and that you're working hard to get strong, but they can't see you when you're at home sitting down with all the questions to the Olympics, or because you can't train properly. And it's really hard now, because I done my my clavicle just before the World Champs, so I still haven't done a World Champs yet. And I really wanted to do these ones, and with my brother and sister as well, my first ones. And I did my shoulder a day before doing the World Champs, and I had to fly home and have surgery, and then go through all of the recovery I've been going through for 5 years. And I think as well, it was, as Tony says, the higher the level you get to, the more pressure. And people think, oh, you've got to that level, it's great. And you're like, well, yeah, but I still want to do well, and I still got to maintain what I'm doing. Last year, I did brilliantly on the World Cup circuit, and this year with COVID, with family issues, and then it was just so hard. And the pressure was twice. I'm absolutely going to smash it. I'm fitter than ever. And then I do a silly fall, and I've just smashed my body up again. And then all the questioning starts again, and you start at zero. And then you've got to try and build up all your confidence again. And like, it terrifies me now thinking, oh, I've just got to put 2 pairs of skis on and go on the mountain and do a backflip. And like, oh, it's fine, you've done it for 10 years. But like, actually, I'm here, and then I keep going down and down with the injuries. And then I have to try and build up. I get to a point, I'm doing really well. And then I get knocked down again. It's just really hard. Like, and yeah, everything Tony said is just like, I just back up 100%. Like, someone can be the fittest ever. If he in his head questioning everything he's doing, like, he's just not going to do. He's not going to perform. Yeah. He can. He's going to question himself, and then that's when injuries happen. And then most importantly, he's not happy, and that's not good. Like, no one can see it, because they're like, oh, he's on skis, he's doing brilliantly, or he's playing football, every sport he's doing, oh, he's doing great. But if that person's not happy, then it's not good. Yeah.
I look back in hindsight, Leonie, to when I took Ellie to see the neurosurgeon in Grenoble. And I now truly believe that she wanted him to write her off. There was no punch in the air. There was no ecstatics when we came out of there and said, yes, you can go back to snowboarding. None of that. It was very muted, very, oh, okay. And now I look back on it, I truly believe she didn't want to say it to me. You know, I always said to her, if this is not what you want to do, if you're not enjoying it anymore, please don't do it. And I always said to her, we have to be very careful, because concussion is a bad thing. You know, I was beginning to learn about it, knew nothing that I do now. But I was beginning to learn about it, and to learn that actually you really shouldn't be carrying on if you've got that many, you know. But I look back now and just think that I reckon she would have actually been happier if he'd have said, I'm really sorry, young lady, but you can't ever compete on a snowboard again. You can't risk damaging your head. So, yeah, it you know, it's a massive thing, isn't it? It's I mean, for you, the ups and downs, it's like snakes and ladders.
Yeah.
You know, you've gotten so close to the end of that board so many times, and then all of a sudden, down the trapdoor, down the ladder, and then you have to put yourself mentally all through that rehabilitation again, you know, to get back. And I mean, people might not understand listening to this. Oh, sorry, people might not understand listening to this, but once you actually get to that situation, and you get as good as you are, after rehabilitation, you then have to get fit again before you can get back to that. So it's a huge cycle of getting back to it, you know. So mentally, yeah, you must be really tough, and it must be really hard on you as well. I mean, I know you are really tough, and you know, I think it's lovely that you've got into art and stuff like that. And I love the fact that you're talking about it now, because I think that is something really important.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Leonie.
Probably like, it's just like, I didn't know Ellie, but like, it's over the years that I've realised that just like, it's really hard to be like to your parents, I don't feel well, like I'm really mentally unstable, and they're sitting with you and they don't know what to do, and you're just like, it's fine, like, you're just sitting with me, I just need to talk to you. But it's really hard to take that step, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's like, they're like, it's fine, if you're not okay, just speak, it's fine. But actually in your head you're like, oh, but I don't want to upset them, I don't want to make them unhappy, like, I don't want them I don't want to put all my problems on them. No. And that's really hard to be like, oh, Mum, I really don't feel well, I just want you to sit with me and listen to me.
Yeah.
But once you've made that step, it feels so good, because you just know that, like, your family's always going to be there for you. And I'm also working with a sports psychologist, so that's like, I 100% wouldn't be going back on skis if I didn't have a sports psychologist. That's just like, no doubt about it.
I think, Keith, if I may just say that Leonie's probably hit the nail on the head there. My daughter, we did know there was some problems because she was very anxious. She was worried. She was scared about funding. She was scared it was all going to be pulled away from her. I told her she couldn't carry on unless she got sponsorship the year before, because I couldn't afford, as banker's dad, I just couldn't afford it anymore. So she had massive problems. She got very, very depressed about it. And I knew there was issues. And once we detected that, of course, you do the best thing you can. I found her someone to see and to speak to. And, I booked her 6 sessions with someone. And after the 6th session, I said, "Oh, is that it then? Is it all finished?" Oh, she was so angry with me. She said, "Dad, if only you knew." But I used to try and take her for walks and say, "Speak to me." But I didn't understand. It didn't, I grew up from the smack round the back of the head, "I'll just get on with it." We didn't have the problems. We did have mental health, and I was probably, I've probably had depression probably 3 or 4 times in my life. If I look back on it now and actually look at the symptoms, and that's what it was. I've also, had anxiety and, thinking I'm going to have heart attacks. But because I didn't understand how she was feeling, because she hadn't spoken to me, sat and spoke to me, probably because I wouldn't listen, wouldn't give her the time because I didn't think I needed to. But what Leonie has just said, by speaking to her mum and dad and saying, "You don't understand, I just want to sit with you and chat." And now her mum and dad know. So yes, if you do talk and you want to talk to your parents, try to explain to them what you're going through, because they really don't know, and they do love you. They will do anything for you. And Leonie's parents would do anything for Leonie now. Now they know that is the case, then they'll look after her and they'll be there for her. And that is a huge, huge step. So I think what you've just said, Leonie, is you've hit the nail on the head. We've all got to talk about it. And especially to loved ones and friends, let them know that you're really not well and this is how you're feeling, because that's the thing. I couldn't understand my daughter's problems. So
yeah. And Tony, can I ask, was she going to see a sports psychologist at the time?
She was. She had been seeing a psychologist 6 months prior, and she was still able to Skype her if she needed to. She was seeing someone. It was, but it obviously wasn't enough. It all became ahead on her birthday. I think she was frightened of becoming into the real world, frightened of becoming an adult. I think CTE was personally, I think that's the thing that killed it. It's called cerebral traumatic amyloidosis, and it's brought about by multiple concussions. And Boston University picked up it straight away as soon as she passed away and said, "Look, we believe your daughter's probably died from CTE. We can, if we can have a segment of her brain, we could prove it to you." But I couldn't do that because, unfortunately, in France, you have to be buried within 7 days. So the funeral had already been. But yeah, looking back, Ellie had every single, what do you call them?
Symptom.
Yeah, every symptom of CTE and more. When I started reading the papers on it, the stuff from Boston University, they did all the studies with the football players that just started killing themselves. No reason. They had everything they wanted. They had, all the sponsorship and everything, but they started killing themselves. And it was because of CTE. And that's the same, as American football, it's the same in sports. And Ellie at the time, in 2018, was suspected to be the fourth free rider winter sports person that year to probably die of it. Wow. Because in winter sports there's lots of concussions, and but it's not looked at like boxing or rugby. Now it needs to be.
And Leonie, I've a question for you. I think because Tony kind of touched on it as well, but do you feel that you get enough support, say from government bodies or from anyone? Like, do you feel that there's anything that should be done more for maybe just injuries in general, or to support athletes when they're maybe injured, or for mentally or anything really?
I'd say I've got a pretty big support around me now. But if I look back like at previous injuries, it's very common that people will send you messages when you get injured and they'll be like, "I'm here for you. You're going to come back stronger." and that's like all pretty much on the day when you get injured.
Okay.
But then you're still kind of injured 6 months later, or however long it takes, and then that support kind of disappears. You don't get the messages, you don't get the phone calls, and that's something that people really need to realise, is that an injury is not going to take, well, if it's a serious one anyway, it's not going to take 3 weeks and then everything's fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to take months or years before you're better, and then you've got to go through all the rehab, and you've got to sit in I went to a rehab centre in France, and I had to go there for weeks. And I was really lucky that my mum came every day to see me. And it was like a 3.5, 4 hour drive. But she did it because she knew I wasn't well. Yeah. But like, you get the phone calls from the coaches, from the physios, or whoever it is, which is great. But then like, after a certain time, they're like, you're fine now. And then you feel like saying, well, no, I'm not. And you don't know what to do. So that really needs to be, like, now it is, like, now I get support. Like, I've always got like my physios once a week. He's either like phoned me or texted me. My sports psychologist I speak to a lot, especially with this injury. My mum and dad are always behind me. But like, for my knee injury, it was very much, you're gonna be fine. In the first 2 months, everyone's backing you, and then it kind of just fades. It feels like it just fades away, and like, they've got their team to focus on, and you've just got to recover and come back, and that's really hard, because you feel like you're not in that team. Like, you're not a part of that team anymore. Like, you are, but you feel like you're not.
Yeah.
And then you don't know what to say to them, because you don't want to be like, well, I don't feel like I belong here, or I don't feel in your group because I've been injured for so long. Yeah.
And do you feel that it's probably more difficult to get mentally fit than physically fit? I mean, I know they go hand in hand, but even for you personally.
100% harder to get fitter mentally than physically. You can get strong. Like, now I'm much stronger than I was before, but in my head it's still taking some time to get round that, like putting a pair of skis on again, or even like just falling on my shoulder. It's got 12 screws in and a plate now. Like, if someone pushed me over on the floor and I fell on it, I'd be like, oh no, my shoulder. Yeah. And that's really hard to get over. Like, I'm okay now, but I think that mentally there's still a lot to work on, and there always will be. Like, I don't think everyone will have up and down. Like, their days you'll never be like, oh, I feel great all the time when you wake up. You always have a moment where you're like, oh, I don't feel so great. Yeah. And when you're injured, it's more like, when you wake up, oh, I feel terrible, and it's like that for like months. And it's just ways of finding how you're gonna turn when you wake up and be like, oh, I feel terrible, rather than going, oh, I'm just gonna lay in bed all day. What can I do to make myself feel better? And like, that's when I started art, learning a new language, studying, doing stuff to keep my mind occupied is like the most important thing ever. Because if you're just sitting there and you're just overthinking, you're like, oh, can I go skiing again? Can I do moguls again? Can I jump again? Will I be able to lift my arm up again? Like, you're just questioning yourself, and you're not helping yourself. Yeah. So it's just, I personally think it's just so much harder to get your head right than physically. Because like, physically, you'll wake up and you'll be, oh, I'm just going to go to physio today, and then that session makes you feel good. And then you'll be in the gym because that's what I love doing, and I'll do that. But like, it doesn't stop the questioning.
Isn't it funny, Leonie, that you're a mature woman, and you've been through it before, and then you see someone like Xavier, who's put his blog up, who's 10 years old, and has been in his little world. He is going through exactly the same as you. He was questioning whether he was ever going to get back on snow, questioning whether they were going to accept him back into his team, his training group, he was doing all that, and that's at 10. It's mad, so it's just nice that we are acknowledging this together, the three of us now, and everybody else that's listening.
Yeah.
It's really important. I think it's really important.
That's great to know that he's actually doing that now at 10 years old, as you say, because like me back then when I was 14, I didn't think anything of it. And like now I know that since my first knee injury, that's what's damaged me the most. Like, because I've had nightmares of waking up and being like, oh, I've torn my ACL walking out the door kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like, so it's just great to know that he at 10 can be like, I don't feel right, don't feel well.
And write about it.
And write about it. Yeah, talk about it, write about it. And like that the support's there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Trying to be there anyway.
I mean, it was the writing about it that I was so not astonished, but so it kind of had an impact on me as well. I was like, he's writing about it as well. I mean, I know
he did me. Yeah, so frank,
Yeah,
for a 10-year-old to write like that, and so frankly about, he started off just doing this because he wanted to do it to help someone, because he wanted to get fit. And then decided that, there's other people in the same sort of situation. So, okay, I'm going to do this run. Let me do it for the Ellie Soutter Foundation. They may be able to help me one day. And they've helped some other people in his sport. So, great. He didn't really know too much about us other than we might fund him, but one day this, that and the other.
10-year-old. Amazing.
Yeah. And then he does it. And then he realizes at the end of it, oh, my God, look what I've done for them. Look what I've done for myself. And, and then writes, and realizes it's been a huge part of his recovery. So,
And what he's achieved as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I couldn't run 10K, let alone 100K.
I couldn't do it in the car. So, Tony, obviously, I was saying earlier on, we kind of keep these short-ish, so we'll wrap this up fairly soon. Is there anything kind of coming up for your foundation, or is there anything that you want to mention before we go?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, it's been extremely tough year and whatever for us. We've probably lost in excess of £150,000. We've been working so hard, everybody in the foundation, and we've had some fantastic stuff. We've had some PR people that have been furloughed that have been working with us. It's like we've built a brand new race car and we are literally waiting to put some fuel in it. Right. And that is obviously the funding. We can help so many people, and we really have some amazing ideas and some good stuff going on. And we want to take on more athletes. We are going to be at the National Snow Show in Birmingham in October. We have some stuff coming up out here in September. There's Allen Bike, which is a massive mountain bike sport thing for us. If anybody's loving mountain biking, sign up, get yourself over here. Now there's a green card to come. Just watch out for what we're doing, our events and stuff. And if you think of anybody that might be able to want to team up and help an athlete, whether an individual athlete or whether you just, come into one of our corporate programs and sponsor them all, etc. We really need the funding now. We can do so much and we can help so many people. It's been an amazing thing to have set up. You don't plan it. It was just, it happened because of the worldwide outpouring of love and grief for what happened to Ellie. They started sending money in and I didn't know what to do with it. So I've done this with it and it's worked and it helps people. And I'd like to continue to do it, but I can't do that without the funding. So that is a massive, please help us. Just go onto the website. It's www.theelliesoutter.foundation. You'll find plenty of ways to help us, even if it's just offering your support, whether you're a physiotherapist in the UK or, psychiatrist out here, it doesn't matter. Just, or just send us some money.
Brilliant, Tony. I echo that sentiment.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a brilliant foundation that you do, and it's for such a good cause. Leonie, have you anything that you want to say before we go? I won't spring the question on you that I did the last time.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention that hopefully I'll be a qualified sports massage therapist. So if that helps the foundation in any way, Tony.
You know it will, Leonie. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just want to say good luck to you, Leonie. I'm hoping you're, getting back to being able to see snow again soon in your training. And good luck to your brother and sister. I mean, they're doing amazing. I know they're training now, but it would be so lovely. And I'm sure they feel the same if you could get back with them and train with them. So I'm looking forward to the day. We'll be cheering for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant. Guys, maybe we'll wrap it up. Listen, guys, I want to just thank the two of you for coming on. That was a fantastic podcast. Tony, you're such a positive guy, and you've kind of gone through so much. And Leonie, you as well, with all your injuries as well. So I mean, I know it's difficult kind of coming on and talking about stuff. So I want to thank the two of you for coming on and doing that. It was really, really good.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Brilliant. And guys, before we go, if you want to check out Xavier's his blog, it is up on the Endless Spiral website. Just go to the Endless Spiral website /blog and you'll find it there. Guys, we'll be back with another podcast very soon. This podcast will be up and live probably today or tomorrow, but you won't know when that is because you'll be listening to it. So we leave it there anyway, guys. And thanks very much and bye for now.